3 minutes, okay? It's probably the only rule, the most important rule. They have a timer down here. At the end of 3 minutes, if they're still going, I always tell the competitors when I train them, if you get to 2 minutes, 59 seconds, and you're halfway through a sentence, no matter how important that sentence is, if you shut up, you can still win. If you get to 2 minutes, 59 seconds, and you bravely finish that sentence, there's a door there, and there's a door there, and you might as well use them. Okay, 3 minutes is absolutely crucial. They get a slide and nothing else. No embedded animations, no sound effects, no nothing. There's no props, no costume, no singing, no dancing, no rapping, no nothing. Okay, it is simply the power of their oratory and a single slide. I tell them that they are performers. This is a one-person show, and that is the set or the backdrop, and that's all they've got to work on. And like all competitions, the judge's decision is final. No discussion, no protests, no nothing, okay? It's never happened before. This, I've got one here. You don't want to hear that, okay? What I like is the fact that in the history of 3MT, and I've been doing this since it started, I've never heard that, other than that, okay? That's what happens if you hit 3 minutes. We give you the bell, and as I say, there's the door, and there's the door. Brilliantly, because these people are so good at what they do, I have never, ever heard that bell go off. And I don't expect to hear it today. And I've seen them rehearse, and I know I won't hear the bell today. Absolutely guarantee I won't hear the bell. But if you hear the bell, it's a sad day. There is criteria for the judging. Now, the judges I'll introduce in a second. They get this criteria. It's quite long, it's quite complex, and it's good. This is, you look at this, the content, and then you look at the engagement and communication. Because it's only 3 minutes, and it's quite intense, and it's quite fast and furious, for them, I summarize it in this way. What was the story? How well was the story told? Okay. You're going to get to be judges too, so you probably need to have to think about what was the story? They're going to come out here, they've only got 3 minutes. What are they going to tell you? How well will they tell you? And the how well includes the slide. The slide is part of the presentation. Judging panel are at the back. I'll let you read their bios. There's a common element here. We are literally peer reviewing today. We've changed. This year is a very different year. We've changed the way we're doing a lot of things, and we've changed the way we judge things. So our judges who are hiding, I won't point to them, but they're hiding at the back, okay? This is peer reviewing at its purest. These people have one thing in common in their bios. They've all been on the carpet, and they've had their 3 minutes, and they've all done very, very well. They've also won other competitions, falling walls, things like that. So these people, Sai, Terry, and Shubrota, know exactly what the competitors are going through. So you couldn't get a more sympathetic panel of judges. Prizes, okay? It isn't just the prizes, by the way. 3MT is so much more. The skills that you learn in encapsulating your thesis in 3 minutes, the networks that you set up, the friends that you make. I know people who 17, 18, 19 years ago, when it started, formed these little friendship groups in 3MT, and they're still helping each other out. So 3MT is a pretty magic place. It's a wonderful thing in that it's a competition that is collegiate. So you can't run faster, jump higher, lift more weight. It's not like that. We're all in it together. We all help each other out. But someone has to win. Someone's going to win $4,000. Second choice will get 2.5. There will be a people's choice vote, which I'll talk to you about in a second, who's going to get 1,000. And everyone who turns up tonight, all of our competitors are going to get 500. Of course, they can go on to win. If they go to Queensland, I think they get $5,000. So, you know, it's not to be sneezed at. We're now going to begin. We just need a couple of seconds to press a few buttons and get ready. So sit tight, relax, and get ready to be amazed by some of the most incredible research that happens on campus at ANU. Our first competitor is Ravini Abhiratna. Ravini is a final year PhD candidate at the Research School of Management in the College of Business and Economics. Born and raised in Sri Lanka, Ravini completed her BSc and MBA there, where her interest in entrepreneurship first began. With experience in academia and a passion for understanding how small businesses operate, she pursued a PhD in entrepreneurship, focusing particularly on how small businesses respond to uncertainty and adversity. Today, she will talk to us on Rising Through the Storms, how small businesses develop entrepreneurial resilience in the face of multiple adversities. So will you please welcome our first competitor, Ravini Aperatne.
Because of the tsunami, I lost everything. I lost my home, my business, and even lost my mother. Years later, I rebuilt everything again. And now, COVID happened. But still, I have hope. I know I will recover. These are the words of a small business owner in Sri Lanka. The image behind me is what is remaining of his beachside business after years of multiple adversities: a table, few chairs, and the courage to keep going. Small businesses are like boats facing violent storms at sea. Some sink, some stay afloat, and a few sail forward. The stormy sea is actually the world we live in today right now, shaped by wars, pandemics, and economic crises. During these uncertain, challenging times, one quiet force keeps businesses and individuals moving forward. That is resilience. My research focuses on a particular kind of resilience called entrepreneurial resilience. That is how small businesses and business owners together positively adapt, respond, and live through adversity. My PhD focused on a critical yet underexplored question. That is, how is entrepreneurial resilience developed in the face of multiple adversities? To understand this, I returned to my home country. Growing up in Sri Lanka, adversity was never far away. We lived through a civil war for 30 years, a tsunami, pandemic, terrorist attacks, and an economic crisis. All these adversities mostly affected the tourism sector of the country, particularly the small businesses. And yet, they somehow kept going. So to understand how, I used qualitative research methods. That is, I conducted more than 40 interviews across Sri Lanka with small tourism business owners. Their stories revealed a clear development of resilience over time. So when adversity hits, they draw on two key things: a positive and hopeful mindset, and a creative use of whatever resources they have at hand, such as relying on self-taught skills, support from family, friends, or even the community. So each adversity taught them to pivot, reshape, or even start new. So my research will help small businesses, not just in Sri Lanka, but globally, to face the uncertain world we live in today. Because in the end, even the most violent storms don't always break you. It builds you, one adversity at a time.
Thank you, Ravini, and you can already see that the judges have got a very hard task ahead of them. Our second contestant is Nicole Lauder. Nicole has worked in the public, private, and not-for-profit sectors and was once even a politician. She's now trying her hand at academia with her research into politics, a mere 40 or so years since her undergraduate degree at ANU. This afternoon, she will ask us to keep in mind, believe it or not, politicians are people too. Would you please welcome Nicole Lauder?
Winston Churchill once said, "Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others we've tried." So here's the thing about our democracy that we know very little about. What happens to those people brave or silly enough to put their hand up to run for public office once the politics is over? I've seen many politicians come and go. Some of them retire gracefully with a nice morning tea and a gift voucher. Some hang on for years or decades past their use-by date. And for some, it's like being hit by a bus when they suddenly lose their seat on election night. Most people think politicians leave with a big lump sum payment and a pension. Actually, the rules changed in 2004, and politicians are on a superannuation scheme just like public servants or academics. Adequate, but not luxurious. Research shows life after politics except for those at the highest level, can be quite harsh. Just like anyone who's faced redundancy, really. Heart disease, anxiety, depression, marriage breakdown, long-term unemployment, even suicide. A 2021 Victorian study found that 71% of MPs who lost their seat struggled to find employment. These aren't just numbers on a page. They're real people with families to support, bills to pay, and dreams that have been derailed. I'm studying every candidate who's ever stood for election in the ACT since self-government in 1989, if I can find them and if they're still breathing. Through surveys and interviews, I'll discover the challenges they face and come up with recommendations for a smoother transition to post-politics life. This isn't just about being nice to politicians, although we should always choose kindness. It is actually about the health of our democracy. If people hang on too long because they're scared of what comes next or scared of not getting another job, that's bad for our democracy. If people hang on too long, they block the pipeline of new people coming through, like women, young people, people from diverse backgrounds, and that's bad for our democracy. If people hang on too long, they risk getting further and further separated from the very people they seek to represent. If we want good people to step up to serve the community, we need to make sure they can step down with dignity. So when you feel like complaining about your politicians, remember democracy is all about people, and despite what you might think, politicians are people too.
Thank you, Nicole. Our next presenter is Lachlan McGuinness. Lachlan works in the hybrid modelling team in CSIRO's Data 61 and is a computer science PhD student from the College of Systems. He's interested in combining neural networks with symbolic AI to solve problems which require both flexible inputs and logical reasoning, including automated grading. Lachlan's presentation today is on AI with confidence. Would you please welcome Lachlan McGuinness?
I'm not a cancer researcher. I'm an enthusiastic AI researcher who loves confidence. There's a famous study where researchers thought they had trained an AI to detect skin cancer with more than 90% accuracy. One of these two pictures is a cancer. Which one do you think it is? A. It's A, because there's a ruler in the picture. In nearly all of their training data, there were rulers in the pictures of the cancers, but not the benign skin lesions. And it took researchers years to figure out this problem because they were using a type of AI called neural networks. Neural networks convert pictures, words, anything, and turn it into numbers to make predictions. But there is a very different type of AI called symbolic AI. Symbolic AIs use symbols that humans can understand to reason about the world. I work on a symbolic AI called FOLD, which stands for First Order Learner of Default. FOLD looks at data, discovers patterns, and represents these as rules. And I tested it on data sets like the Titanic, you know, the ship that was unsinkable. It came up with these rules. If you were a woman, you survived. If you were a man, you died. Sorry, gentlemen. Unfortunately, FOLD cannot look at images by itself. It needs help from a pre-trained neural network to be able to see pictures. So I upgraded FOLD. I gave it the ability to produce confidence values. So now its predictions include confidence. For the Titanic, if you're a woman, you survived. 97% confident. If you're a man, you died. 99% confident. Sorry, gentlemen. But what I'm excited about, two things. Confidence values have enabled FOLD to learn from very small amounts of data. For example, it was able to learn a marking scheme after looking at just 30 student responses to an exam. And adding confidence values gives Fold a very special property called end-to-end differentiability. This means that now Fold can learn together with a neural network to be able to see pictures. I hope that in the future that this combination of a neural network and a symbolic AI will enable us to solve lots of exciting and important problems like marking or detecting skin cancers with confidence.
Thank you, Lachlan. Next, we have Samantha Shipley. Having spent the last 15 years traveling the world working with elephants in India, bears in Laos, and even diving with great white sharks, Samantha Shipley has developed a passion for our natural world and the ways we can use to better protect it, which has inspired her PhD in conservation genetics. Today, she will introduce us to the wonderful world of the secret life of poo. Would you please welcome Samantha Shipley?
Our planet is in crisis. And as science turns to satellites, artificial intelligence, and gene editing for salvation, the unlikeliest of heroes steps forward: poo. Now, I study native grasslands, and although they cover just a sliver of the Earth's surface, they serve as biodiversity hotspots, critical to the health of our planet. Despite their importance, they are one of our most endangered and altered landscapes. In southeastern Australia alone, less than 1% remains intact. They've been grazed, ploughed, burnt, built on, and they're choking with weeds. Now it's herbivores, whether native, introduced, or domestic, that shape and mould ecosystems, based predominantly on what they eat and how much. The problem is that we have so fundamentally altered our grassland systems. We have no idea what today's mix of herbivores is doing to it. So that's where my research comes in, along with my very unexpected ally, poo. Yes, feces, scat, dung, or as I call it, eco-gold. And now my friends call me the poop doctor. And to be honest, it's a well-earned title because I have collected over 1,700 poos from 8 different species, including cows, deer, kangaroos, and wombats. Each sample is like this tiny biological time capsule, holding fragments of these animals' most recent meals. To find out what's on the menu, I use a technique called DNA meta-barcoding. You can imagine it to be like scanning groceries at the supermarket, only I'm scanning for plants in poo. And this technique works because every species has a unique DNA sequence, which acts just like a barcode. So with less than 1 gram of poo, I can tell you exactly who's eaten what. Now, what I've found is a good news, bad news story. It seems that our large, non-native herbivores, like our cows and deer, are consuming way more weeds than our native species. And initially, I thought this is really good news. But I later discovered that these same animals are spreading seeds, taking them from weed eaters to weed couriers. This means they're likely doing way more damage than we initially thought. The silver lining is that this is critical knowledge going straight back into creating better management strategies. I know that poo is not the most glamorous of heroes, but it truly is helping me tackle one of the great ecological challenges of our time.
Thank you, Sam. Our next presenter is GJ Milley. GJ is a PhD student at the Department of Pacific Affairs. She's a lecturer by profession, but has been out of the game for a few years, so asks that we give her some grace. She enjoys long walks on the beach and can't wait to be free of her current predicament to indulge in some mindless bliss. This afternoon, GJ will talk to us about rethinking women's political participation in Papua New Guinea. Would you please welcome GJ Milley?
Women's political representation is a contentious issue globally, but more so right here in the Pacific. I am a Pacific Islander and a Melanesian from Papua New Guinea. My country will be celebrating 50 years of independence this September, but only 10 women have graced the floors of Parliament since 1975. The Interparliamentary Union ranks Papua New Guinea 181 out of 183 countries globally in terms of women's representation in Parliament. Now, that's concerning, but the same dire story can be seen again and again in other Pacific Island countries. Now, my question is, with low levels of women's representation, does that mean that we have low participation? Well, data shows furthermore, two factors in my research is that PNG culture and PNG men have been deemed or perceived as being sexist and discriminatory towards women in Parliament. And moreover, oh my gosh. So to understand how women participate in politics, I spent 6 weeks in the autonomous region of Bougainville, the site where a decade-long conflict erupted between the PNG Defense Force and the Bougainville Revolutionary Army. Now, why Bougainville, you may ask? Well, Bougainville's House of Representatives has 33 seats and 6 reserve seats for women. 6 reserve seats, 3 for women and 3 for ex-combatants. Bougainville has fared well in terms of women's representation, and a key finding from my research is that I would like to understand further what is inherent to Papua New Guinea, pairing that with Western ideals such as gender equality, and without alienating fundamental Melanesian or PNG ways.
Thank you, GJ. Next, we have Sue Tet. Sue is a second-year PhD candidate at the ANU Law School, the College of Law, Governance and Policy, and a casual sessional academic. Her research examines Indigenous cultural intellectual property rights in Myanmar with a focus on the Karen community. Sue has over 3 years of experience as a legal associate and currently teaches international law to local administrators and students in Myanmar. Her 3 minutes this afternoon will be on the sacred and the stolen. Who owns Indigenous culture in Myanmar? Will you please welcome Sue Tet?
Imagine your grandmother's weaving pattern that has been passed down through generations to generations, being copied, trademarked, and sold overseas, not by your community, but by someone else who is never even set foot in your village. This is not just love. This is a cultural erasure. I come from Myanmar, Burma, a Southeast Asian nation with rich cultural diversity, but currently under the control of military since February 2021. There is one thing that many people don't know. Myanmar is home to world's longest running civil conflict, more than 76 years of unrest. This is not just one war. This is a deep-rooted struggle between the military and ethnic community fighting for the autonomy, identity, and recognition. So the community identify themselves as Karen, that I came from, and they carry profound traditional dances, cultural knowledges, and ancient medicinal practices. Yet, Myanmar's law offer no meaningful protection. Even the constitution refused to use the word indigenous, prefer using national races, erasing the identity rights and protection that indigenous people deserve. This is not just a gap. This is a systemic exclusion by the military. So, my PhD asks, how can Myanmar legal framework be strengthened to safeguard the indigenous cultural and intellectual property rights? I'm not just analyzing law. I am listening to the indigenous community leader, especially Karen, we call indigenous standpoint theory, and interviewing Myanmar revolutionary government, international organizations, and cultural experts. I combine these voices with doctrinal legal analysis and international framework to ask, how can we create legal protection that are locally grounded and internationally aligned? This work is deeply personal because I have seen how easily cultural heritage can be politicized, misunderstood, and erased altogether. This is not just a PhD topic, because if I don't start doing this research now, who will? So this is a responsibility to ensure that the indigenous people in Myanmar have their rights and protection recognized in the law. Because cultural heritage is not just about the past. This is a living identity, so we must be protected in practice, in law, and for generations to come.
Thank you, Sue. We're now halfway through the presentations. So number 7 is Chunka Zan. Chunka is a second-year PhD student from the Research School of Biology. During her time at ANU, she's worked on various aspects of fish behavior, from fighting to mating and from cognition to reproduction. Her current research focuses on how fish adjust their reproductive strategies in different conditions. Today, she's going to reveal to us what fish can teach us about love. Would you please welcome Chunka Zan?
What's your first thought when you think of evolution? Maybe survival of the fittest, run faster, eat more, live longer. But that's only half the story. The other half is about love, or at least lust. You have to breed. Evolution doesn't just favor the strongest, but also the most attractive, the best parents, those who successfully pass on their genes. This is the other side of evolution, reproduction. In my PhD, I studied a tiny thumb-sized fish called mosquito fish. I observed their mating behavior and I measured the number and quality of their sperm and eggs. Now you might be wondering, why study this tiny fish? Well, I promise I'm not just someone who watches fish mate all day for fun. It matters because although it's tempting to think we are completely unique among animals, we actually share more similarities than we thought, especially in reproduction. Here, I'd like to share 3 interesting findings. First, human and fish show surprisingly similar mating behavior. I have seen male mosquito fish constantly chasing females, and females often group together to avoid that. This reminds me of how at a party, people stick with their friend just to avoid being approached too much. Different species, same social strategy. Second, just like human, fish seem to worry, well, not consciously, but biologically, about aging. We know age affects fertility, but we're still figuring out how. Which trait will be affected, how strong the effects are. In fish, we have found that older males produce slower sperm and take longer time to replenish sperm. By studying how aging affects fish reproduction, we are piecing together answers for ourselves. Third, Even after mating, similarities continue. Fish and human sperm have the same shape, the same way of swimming, and unfortunately the same weakness, heat. High temperature can reduce sperm motility in fish, just as they do in humans. Because at the end, we share a lot of similarities: awkward mating behavior, aging worries, and fragile sperm. By understanding how fish adjust their reproductive strategy, we're learning something important, not just about fish future, but about our own love story too.
Next, we have Mingming Zhou. Mingming Zhou is a PhD candidate at the National Center for Epidemiology and Population Health. She has a background in pharmacy and public health and has worked in tertiary hospital engagement in health research, especially for people living with chronic conditions. Her topic today is More Than a Thank You, Revolutionizing Consumer Recognition in Health Research. Would you please welcome Mingming Zhou?
Meet Bella. For 10 years, she's checked her blood sugar, adjusted her insulin, and navigated a healthcare system that wasn't designed with her in mind. Bella has a kind of knowledge that can't be taught at school, lived experience. When she volunteers to help design research about her condition, how do we value her contribution? Some research groups offer a gift card, others pay her like a consultant. Many offer nothing at all. This patchwork of recognition is not just unfair to Bella, it's undermining our health research. Would you design a car without talking to drivers? Of course not. Yet somehow, we've been designing health research without properly valuing the people who are living with these conditions every single day. That means people like Bella may get frustrated. The research might ask wrong questions, using methods that don't work in real life, and waste our money. As a public health researcher, I wanted to know, how do research organizations in Australia actually value people like Bella? I surveyed organizations nationwide. Among 124 responses, 92% agreed people like Bella should be recognized. But when they did, the payments anywhere from $20 to $200 for the same kind of work. So why does this matter? For people like Bella, they may go unrecognized. And for my research, I used co-design workshops to gather researchers, people with lived experience, and research organizations to create Australia's first recognition framework on how to value people like Bella when they help with research. This framework isn't just another academic document. It's a catalyst for change in how we value people like Bella and how we do research in Australia. Because when we value all voices in research, we all benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mingming. Next, we have Mamta Suchin Kumar. Mamta makes the best masala chai in Canberra. And we'll all go back and Mamta is also a storyteller and a poet. She stitches poems to share the way migrant women stitch the survival of their community. Today, Mamta takes us to Japan to share a deeply personal story of a dying people and the invisible labor of housewives to save them. In her presentation, The Story of Nothing. Would you please welcome Mamta Suchin Kumar?
Women do nothing all day. Housewives are especially skilled at doing nothing all day. So claimed a 6-year-old Japanese girl who sat beside her mother, a housewife, and looked curiously at the elderly Indian woman across the table. "Shigoto wa nani? What's your job?" she asked. "I'm a housewife," the older woman replied, in English. The child didn't understand, so she turned to her mother, who then gently explained. "She's a shufu, like me." "Ah, nandemo nai. She does nothing," the child declared. The older woman laughed, then smiled tightly, because here's what her everyday reality looks like. She's the first to wake up, checks the fridge, makes breakfast, sets the table, loads the laundry, drives her husband to the station, does the groceries, volunteers, preps lunch, guides the part-time help, socializes, gossips, picks her kids up, preps dinner, readies dinner, sees to the plumber, washes up, doesn't sit down, or goes to bed till everyone else has, because she is too busy doing nothing all day. Rinse and repeat. Let it be known that a housewife never retires. In fact, when her husband does, she doubles down on doing nothing. Did you know that there's a community of Indian migrants that has lived in Japan for over 150 years, and that it's now on the brink of disappearing? In fact, the only reason it survives is because the housewife does nothing all her life. My research began with an itch to figure out my roots. I'm a migrant, twice removed, my identity in crisis. Born in Japan to a community that may soon cease to exist, I am terrified of belonging to nothing. Wouldn't you be? So I spoke to my mother to understand my beginnings, but it led to a frustrating self-dismissal that she does nothing. Nothing began as a dead end, but then it flipped and became a gateway into the worlds of the women of my community, of whom I am a product, whose nothingness I inherit. My research traces 50 years of women doing nothing to save the 50 families now left. I returned to Japan to shadow nothing, women's work, the ordinary drill of daily practice, where culture is consumed at dinner, language pours out into cups of tea, gossip circulates information, and socializing secures resources, where community is not self-evident, but painstakingly reproduced through the invisible rhythm of the mundane everyday. My research brings to life the story of nothing, the nothing that women do that preserves their personhood and ensures my survival as a migrant. What's your story of nothing?
Thank you, Mamta. Next, we have Chan Hui Chen. Chan Hui Chen is a PhD candidate at the Research School of Astronomy and Astrophysics. She grew up in a small village in China where, as a child, she would stare at the night sky after dinner, not because she was already an astronomer, but because her mother wouldn't let her watch TV. Those quiet nights sparked a lifelong fascination with the stars. Today, she'll be sharing some of her research on the spiral arms of galaxies, which she describes as reading the wrinkles on a galaxy's face. Would you please welcome Chan Hui Chen?
Our solar system sits on a spiral arm of the Milky Way. Over 2/3 of nearby galaxies also have spiral arms. They act like the delivery rooms of the universe, giving birth to most stars. But did you know the origin of spiral arms is still one of the biggest mysteries in astronomy? Many theories try to explain where they come from, but no single answer fits all. My PhD explores this topic by studying how spiral galaxies have changed in the past 5 billion years. Watching a galaxy grow old in real time is impossible. Even if I live into my 80s, that's still a blink of an eye to a galaxy. So instead, I use what we call top-class simulations that can successfully reproduce spiral galaxies. Now comes the challenge. Identifying spiral arms is not only time-consuming, but also subjective. If I give the top image to everyone in this room, we probably all trace the arms a bit differently. Thankfully, we live in the age of computers. I developed an algorithm that detects the spiral arms in just 10 seconds. By applying it to the same galaxy at different life stages, from childhood to adulthood, I can trace how spiral arms grow over time. Results show that they are not static, they are constantly evolving. I like to think of spiral arms as the wrinkles on a galaxy's face. Just like people, galaxies get their wrinkles in different ways. Both internal growth and external influence are captured in our simulations. Some spiral arms grow out from the bar in the galaxy's center. These wrinkles are genetic. Others are shaped by the environment, such as what we call a flyby galaxy or a merging companion. During these events, the spiral arms stretch, twist, and reorganize their stars across the galaxy disk. Now, people use Botox to smooth out wrinkles. But where's the Botox for a galaxy? Theory says a merger might erase the spiral arms, transforming a spiral galaxy into a smooth, wrinkle-free elliptical. But in our simulations, that didn't happen. When a merger occurs, the spiral arms do get disturbed, but they settle down again within 600 million years. Long for us, but just a coffee break for a galaxy. In the end, my work shows that spiral arms are resilient features shaped by both nature and nurture. Galaxies wear their life stories on their face, and I'm here to find where those wrinkles come from.
Thank you, Chen Hui. We're now down to our final two. Next, we have Megha Jacob. As she completed her bachelor's and master's degrees in India with distinction, it became apparent to Megha that she had a knack for working with test tubes and beakers. Her love of the lab brought her to ANU as a PhD student in the Research School of Chemistry, and she's currently researching on an ARC discovery project to develop better rechargeable batteries by applying cutting-edge systems and materials. Megha's presentation today is Moving Ions to Move Lives Forward, Potassium-based dual-ion batteries. Would you please welcome Megha Jacob?
You have an interview for your dream job in 3 minutes, but your laptop's about to die. You forgot to charge your phone the night before. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just charge it back to 100% in a few short minutes? You are planning to buy a new electric car, but a possibility of a battery explosion on road worries you. I think what you all need is a doctor for your batteries. Well, that's me. Yes, I work on rechargeable batteries. As a quick primer, I see batteries as a closed fish tank. The two ends of the tank, we call them the electrodes. And the tank is filled with some liquid, which we call the electrolytes. Now, in this tank, we have some tiny friends, or fishes, which is ions for us, that keep swimming between the two ends of the tank. As they move, sometimes they are full of energy, and other times they're pretty much dead. This process of gaining and losing energy is termed charging and discharging of batteries. Now, the batteries that we commonly find in the market are the lithium-ion batteries. We've been pushing lithium to work day and night for over 30 years. But we often forget that lithium is a finite resource which has to be used wisely. And our current lithium consumption outpaces its production. So it's high time we find alternatives. Enter potassium, another potential candidate from the same family as lithium. But in the existing potassium system, these positively charged potassium ions have some negatively charged partner ions that sit idle while potassium does all the work. Just as much as I hate to see my husband sleep while I work, I hate to see potassium toil all by herself. So I decided to move these other lazy ions along with potassium, but in opposite directions so that they don't fight. And when two people work together, the job becomes more efficient. And their combined hard work results in an exciting new type of battery termed dual-ion batteries. Now, to make these ions perform their best, I replace the conventional electrodes and electrolytes of the dual-ion battery system with higher capacity and higher stability alternatives that I synthesize in my lab. In this way, I strive to produce efficient, long-lasting, and most importantly, safer batteries so that your laptop works longer, your phone charges faster, and you drive an EV that's not going to explode.
Thank you, Megha. We're now ready for our very last presenter, number 12, Ala Shihadeh. Ala has spent over 15 years working with refugee and underserved communities across the Arab region. She's passionate about designing psychological programs and interventions that are not only culturally grounded, but also co-created with the very communities she serves. Her current research focuses on the mental health of mass grave workers and community-led healing after trauma, a topic she will discuss today in her presentation, Voices from the Field, exploring psychological challenges, resilience, and culturally appropriate interventions for mass grave workers in the Arab region. Would you please welcome Ala Shihadeh?
Do you think I'm negative? Everyone thinks that, even my family. I used to answer them, "You don't know how much sadness I hold in my heart. I can't celebrate life after witnessing people suffer. I can't just dance while others still mourning their loved ones. How I can do that anymore?" That was a quote from a mass grave worker in Libya. She and hundreds like her across Arab region do work that few will ever see or understand. They spend months away from home, sometimes sleep in the same room as the remains, not because it's part of their job, but because their sense of duty prevents them from leaving until every victim is identified and every family finds a closure. It sounds like a tough job, right? That's why our research asks what psychological challenges these workers face, how they cope, and how we can support them in a way that respects their culture and context. Last year, we met with 110 mass graves workers in Libya and Iraq, and we asked them how they deal with the trauma come with this job. A lot of workers talk about experiencing flashbacks, nightmares, emotional numbness, but many of them described it as just part of the job. They also talk about moral injury, moments when their humanity clashed with the protocol. One worker said, "They asked me to separate the remains of mother and her baby. They were still holding each other as one body. I was screaming, 'Forgive me,' while I'm doing my job, because as a mother myself, I would rather to hold my baby even under the dust." Yet, despite all of these challenges, they show incredible resilience. They talk about their job as a mission and turn to their faith. One worker said, "Whenever I feel I can't continue, I remind myself of this verse from Quran, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ, maintain the beautiful patience." And to help them to continue this journey, our next step is to co-design and test a culturally appropriate intervention with them for them. Because these heroes deserve a research that finally listens to their voices and honor the quiet justice they bring to the whole region. One grave, one family, one act of healing at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ala. And I think we should have one huge round of applause for all 12 presenters. Now, On the basis that there is no such thing as a free lunch, there is no such thing as a free scone, you have to vote first. So have a think about the presentations you've seen. Remember the people who've talked to you. Think of the amazing research. Ask yourself these questions and point your phone at the QR code. And what you will see is all the presenters, their smiling faces, and you get to choose just one of them. You can only vote once, so think about it, be very careful. When you've voted, there are scones, there are cakes, there's tea, there's coffee. We'll take about 15, 20 minutes to relax. These poor people probably want to collapse in a heap somewhere, and then we'll all come back afterwards and we'll find out who the judges chose. So thank you this afternoon. Vote, scones, and then back here.
Oh, good afternoon again, everyone. It's great doing my job. I get to turn up at the start, I get to speak at the end, and I get to do very little in the middle while everyone else does the hard work. So, look, again, it's been a wonderful afternoon, and my reflection on afternoons like this is the very best of what we are at ANU and universities more broadly, the opportunity to hear about absolutely extraordinary pieces of work and research that you're undertaking. It blows me away, the breadth of things that we're doing, the huge impact it has on the world as a consequence of doing the work. So to all of you, it was absolutely extraordinary. And can I ask everyone to give a round of applause to our finalists? I know I'm standing between you and finalising the results, so just one more thing from me is just events like this don't just happen, and so can I extend my thanks to the research and development team. Again, it's been a great activity in its various phases through the year here at ANU, and it now obviously continues on. So I will now get out of the way. Apparently I'm not getting out of the way. I have to stand here and hand out prizes, which is, again, a great thing to be involved in. Thank you all for coming along this afternoon. Thank you again to our presenters, and I hope you've enjoyed the afternoon. Thanks all.
Thank you, Lachlan. So we're going to announce the People's Choice, then the second place, and then the winner. When your name's called out, come and shake Lachlan's hand, take a big, well-deserved vow. We'll start with People's Choice. This is the one that you all voted for, so thank you for doing that. Would you please give a huge round of applause to Mamta? In second place, judged by the judges, would you please give an even huger round of applause to Chanhui Chen? And in first place, and going on to represent ANU in the Asia Pacific Finals, would you please give the biggest round of applause to Chunka Zan? Thank you all for attending. Thank you for supporting research at ANU. We will do this all over again next year, so we'd love to see you here again. One last round of applause for all the contestants and especially our winners.